Hello, happy Monday. Thank you and congratulations for joining 10 Minutes to Get More, where I share every week at 9 a.m. on a Monday morning UK time a tip, a tool, or a technique to help you get the most out of your career or the most from your commercial teams in the travel and travel tech industry. So today I'm on part 2 of my mini series about new jobs. Today is all about the green flag. So what to look out for that shows that your company really cares about you, your development, and it's going to be a great place to work. So, you know when you apply for a job and you do really well in the interview, you get the job, you're really excited about it, it's maybe your next dream job, and then the self-doubt starts to creep in. You're wondering, am I really going to match up to that previous person that was in the role that's been promoted out of it? Am I even going to match up to the person I sold them in the interview? You start to get those feelings of, did I actually just con them in the interview? Don't worry, that's not a red flag. That is actually really normal, although I can help with that. And I've had that feeling too. So once upon a time, I got a new job, and before I started, my future boss called me and said, I'm really sorry, Emily, but your first week in the company, we're going to have to fly you to New York for your onboarding. Is that okay? And I was like, are you kidding? Of course that's okay. I thought I'd hit the jackpot. I mean, a free trip to New York. This felt like the travel industry that people had nostalgically been telling me about all the time that disappeared since the credit crunch, where people just got to go on free trips all the time. I was dead excited, and I had the best week when I was out there, honestly. Everyone was lovely. The office was fancy, I got to meet great people, and I'm still in touch with some of them, and it was my first trip to New York, so win-win. But it was a baptism of fire. It was 5 full days of systems training, and if you've seen a travel industry B2B back office system, you'll know that all that means is learning how to avoid the 10,000 ways that you can avoid losing the company money. It's high pressure. So not only was I exhausted by the end of it, I still had no idea about the context of the market that I'm managing, who I could turn to for help when back in London, or what my boss expected of me. And I didn't have any practical examples to use in the training either, meaning it was harder to remember and learn the systems bit too, because it was all Test Hotel 1. It definitely felt like having all the gear and no idea. Now that stuff did come later, but in the meantime, I felt like I was definitely going to be found out as a fraud. And on top of that, a fraud who got a free trip to New York and were they going to make me pay it back when I realised that I couldn't do what I was doing. Now, of course, everything went fine in the end and I settled in, but those feelings of imposter syndrome can really settle in if onboarding is not done in the right way, or sometimes even when it is. So the green flags I'm about to share apply for new roles in the same company, but also if you're moving to a new company, like in that story just there. So first green flag I'm going to start off with today. By the way, this is the pilot principle. The pilot principle are my 4 key pillars to getting the most out of your career and the most out of your teams. I share the same framework both with companies and with individuals because I believe that we are both 2 sides of the same coin, right? So the first one we're looking at is self-leadership. Now, self-leadership is all about enabling you to step up and be autonomous, right? You have to come with the self-leadership, but what can the company do to help you with that? The company can help you understand how your work fits into the bigger picture. If you've ever been on an onboarding like mine, where you get all of the systems and all of the data, you can start to get really stuck in the weeds and in the nitty-gritty. It's way better if they can start from the bigger picture. What are the company's mission and vision? What are the company's values? What is the bigger picture? What's our biggest challenge over the last 5 years or coming up in the next 5 years? How does your job as a single individual person fit into that bigger picture? So rather than, silly example, but like data entry, rather than putting numbers in a spreadsheet, you're actually helping to improve accuracy and manage profitability. Like it's a completely different thing. So if that company really goes out of its way to help you understand how your work fits into the bigger picture, that's a real green flag. Support, that's the next pillar that I'm just going to look at, because support and self-leadership are on opposite sides, meaning they need to both be in balance for this thing to be working. So in terms of support, I've said it before that they just don't give you a buddy at this point, right? If you're quite senior, they think you should just fit in and that you work things out. But I am such a big fan of having a buddy at all levels in the business. Yeah, even the CEO. It'll be hard to find in 1 minute. You have to be very specific about who the buddy's going to be. But even the CEO could use a buddy because it could be quite lonely. So if they set you up with a buddy, perhaps if you're a people manager with a lateral people manager in a different region, or perhaps with someone from a different department, ideally, it can't be your boss, it can't be your boss's boss, but that's someone that you can connect with at first, maybe on a weekly basis, ask all your silly questions, understand how things are done. understand how decisions get made, understand who's important in the company. That buddy can help give you a lot more insight about how to do your job, sometimes than your boss can not doing your job. The next pillar we're looking at is slick communication. So here, this, for me, the green flag here in companies in terms of communication is all about listening to you, so you feel heard and respected. It's about understanding your perspective, having come out of the business, and valuing that, rather than say, yeah, all good, I'm glad you did that at the other place, but now we're going to talk about these things. But instead, taking it on board and taking the best of what you're saying, and perhaps even integrating it, and to make you feel really heard and respected. And also explaining how people communicate around here, because it is different in every company culture. Is it, do you send emails after hours and expect people to reply or not reply? Hopefully not. Is it normal to send someone a Slack message or a Teams message? Is it better to send an email? Do people prefer to be spoken to face-to-face? Obviously, there are differences when it comes to individuals, but companies as a whole often have different communication cultures as well. And the final pillar, the final green flag, is up here in skill. So this is all about making sure you have the skills you need, but not all the ones that you don't need for your job. So onboarding what is needed and when it's needed, not giving you 90 onboarding videos to tick off and watch because everybody in the company has to watch these 90 videos. It's not helpful. It's going to fill up your brain. It's not helping you see how your work fits with the bigger picture. It's not giving you the entire 5 days of systems training like what I got, which was helpful later on, but it was a lot to deal with in the first week. What they want to be doing is helping you see the bigger picture, breaking it down into what you're going to be doing, and then giving you little bits and pieces of systems as you go through. And if they can manage that, I think they're doing a great job. So if, like me, you're a bit of a striver and maybe a bit of a recovering perfectionist, you might feel on edge in a new role thinking like, this is the one, this is the role that's going to reveal me as a fraud. But if these green flags are there, I think it's a good sign for the role and good to concentrate and try and do the best that you can in that role because it seems like a good company. And those feelings of self-doubt are actually really normal. So from my research last year, I found that 75% of people who are happy in their careers feel imposter syndrome. And that was 3 times the amount of people that weren't happy in their careers. Sounds a bit funny, doesn't it? But the reason for that is actually that when you care about something and you're making changes in something, that's perfect breeding ground for imposter syndrome. So it's really normal, but you know that you can do something about it. My program, Momentum, is the 100-day accelerator with the co-pilot in your pocket. There is a little QR code up here. I'm the co-pilot, hi. So you can be better than anyone expected in your new role, better than your boss thought, better than you thought, better than the previous person. So it's for people who are stepping up into a new, bigger role, maybe a head of or a director role, or perhaps a bigger regional remit rather than a country remit. So if you aren't getting the support you deserve, or that self-doubt is creeping in, now's your chance to act. And I would love to have a chat.